As promised, we have some brand new Fox News polls just being released now at the top of the hour, and they are chock full of fascinating new numbers. We've got the head-to-head Democrat versus GOP candidates for the 2016 presidential race. On the Dem side, you've got Hillary hanging on to her front-runner status, but some big changes in her numbers as they all get ready to rumble tonight in Las Vegas at that high-stakes debate. Welcome, everybody. Brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Bill Hemmer. Good morning. 5 Democrats ready to take the stage, facing off again in their first debate, round one. According to our latest poll, Hillary Clinton's biggest foe is not a Democrat. Take a look at these hypothetical matchups with top-tier Republicans. Clinton trails Ben Carson by 11 points and Donald Trump by 5 points. Jeb Bush has a 4-point edge over Clinton. Carly Fiorina leads her by 3. Meanwhile, Vice President Joe Biden, who could still get in this race, fares much better. He leads Trump by 13. He tops Bush by 5 points. Biden is preferred over both Fiorina and Carson by 4 points. And he narrowly beats Marco Rubio by 1 single point, head-to-head.
All right, we're going to get into these numbers. Very interesting. Fox team coverage here. John Roberts in Las Vegas with more on tonight's debate. Carl Cameron in Washington with a look at Jeb Bush's plan to repeal Obamacare that just came out. We start with Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor. Steve, welcome. Good to have you here. First of all, your take on the data that we just showed, because Hillary Clinton loses pretty handily to Carson, to Trump, to Bush, to Fiorina, and yet Joe Biden squeaks past all of those Republican candidates. That's got to have him sitting at home tonight watching this thinking that maybe he ought to get in.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating numbers, and I agree with you that if Joe Biden is paying attention to these, he has to be encouraged. Look, I think there's a fairly simple explanation for this. Hillary Clinton is very popular among Democrats. Her favorability numbers among Democratic voters are the highest of all of the potential Democratic candidates, but she's less popular among independents and Republicans. That explains in part why she beats the other Democrats in head-to-head matchups among Democrats in surveys of Democratic primary voters, but why when you broaden that out to general election candidates, to registered voters, somebody like Joe Biden, who has much more cross-party appeal, is in the lead and does better against Republicans in those head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, though, that Joe Biden is not in this race. And the person that everybody wants to get in the race, you know, they always feel so sweet on because they're begging him to get in. When he gets in and he starts talking and campaigning, if that's the case, we may see a different story. But who knows? We don't know at this point. I want to put up this other number here, which shows something interesting. Hillary Clinton down 16 points since June. Against her opponents. And Steve, this may be, you know, the last take we had on her and how she stacks up against Republicans, she was still beating them. So over the summer, basically, she's now in a position where she is no longer beating these candidates in head-to-head GOP matchups.
Yeah, this is not just a gradual erosion. This is a pretty steep drop. And I think, again, it's best explained by her loss, the loss of confidence in Hillary Clinton among independents and Republicans. Among Republicans, she is almost universally reviled. Virtually nobody trusts her. It's hard to imagine that if she were the Democratic nominee, that she would be able to pull many Republican votes from Republicans. And independents have become increasingly skeptical of Hillary Clinton. That's shown across polling in a number of different polls. The Washington Post has new numbers out as well that seem to back up that case. She's doing very well with Democrats in the Democratic primary, even when Joe Biden is included, but she doesn't do well once you broaden that out.
All right, let's take a look at this, which I also found very interesting. These are just, you know, sort of potential what-if scenarios and matchups. But if Joe Biden were to put Elizabeth Warren on his ticket, they would beat Donald Trump and Carly Fiorina by 6 points, and they would beat Bush and Rubio in a closer match by 2 points. Plus or minus 3 is the margin of error here. So basically, it's a draw between Biden and Warren and Bush and Rubio. Your thoughts on those?
Well, it's pretty interesting, and again, I think it speaks to this larger issue. Joe Biden has a bit more cross-party appeal than Hillary Clinton does, and you add Elizabeth Warren to that ticket, that prospective ticket, and it shores up Biden's appeal among the Democratic base, among the people that Hillary Clinton has been doing particularly well with. So that would be a formidable ticket. There's certainly been a lot of discussion about whether Joe Biden would reach out to Elizabeth Warren. He had that meeting with her at the vice president's residence about 3 weeks ago. They seem to be simpatico. They disagree on some issues like Trade Promotion Authority, but that would be a formidable ticket if Biden were in fact to get in and to challenge Hillary Clinton to eventually beat her.
All right, Steve, thank you very much.
So what's the mood in Vegas, you wonder, as we count down to the big event? We continue our Team Fox coverage right now with senior national correspondent John Roberts. He joins us live from Las Vegas to set the scene for there. Good morning, John. How goes it?
Bill, good morning to you. Sun just coming up here. A lot of people nursing hangovers, or will be when they finally wake up. Tell you, Hillary Clinton's going to have a big night at the debate tonight if she hopes to regain the momentum that she had earlier this year. It's going to be the first time for voters to see all the Democratic candidates in the same place at the same time. Here's how they're going to line up. It's according to polling. Hillary Clinton's got the middle spot, flanked left and right by Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, Martin O'Malley, the former governor of Maryland, and then Jim Webb and Lincoln Chafee on the ends. But there is a sixth podium being held in reserve just in case, like some Las Vegas magic show, in a puff of smoke, Joe Biden suddenly shows up to participate in this debate. Things to watch for tonight. How far left will Hillary Clinton tack to get around Bernie Sanders? She's already flipped on the Keystone Pipeline, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and opposed the Cadillac tax on union health plans. Last night, she was the only candidate to drop by a union rally outside of Donald Trump's non-union casino.
Now, you know, some people think Mr. Trump is entertaining, but I don't think it's entertaining when somebody insults immigrants, insults women. That is just unacceptable behavior. And so when we're here together in solidarity to organize.
Other things to watch for tonight: can Bernie Sanders, who attracted huge crowds at weekend rallies in Tucson and Boulder, appear presidential to a wider audience on the debate stage? And can Martin O'Malley have a Fee Arena-like breakout moment? The former Maryland governor positioning himself as a candidate who will work across the aisle to get things done.
I am of a different generation than some of my older baby boomer brothers and sisters or parents. I don't ask if an idea is from the left or from the right or whether it's Democratic or Republican. I ask whether it works. And if it works, we do it.
O'Malley is barely cracking 1% in national polls, so a lot of Democrats believe it's either do or die for him tonight. As to when Biden will get in, he's got the rest of the month to think about it, but he's got some hard deadlines coming up if he hopes to get into states like Alabama, Arkansas, Michigan, and Florida in November. Bill?
True that. Thank you, John Roberts. We'll talk to you a bit later in Vegas. Martha.
Well, on the Republican side, some big news from former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. He has unveiled his plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, and it came out just this morning. Chief political correspondent Carl Cameron has been looking over it. He joins us in Washington with more on this. So, a big announcement. What can you tell us about this, Carl?
Well, Jeb Bush now becomes the second candidate in the race to have a plan to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, the president's signature domestic policy achievement, Obamacare. He's got an event at St. Anselm's College up in New Hampshire where he'll be giving a speech in just a short while. He's let out some of the details. Most of the Republican field is pretty much taking the day low-key, expecting the Democratic debate to suck the oxygen out of any Republican politics. But Bush is getting started with his speech today. He'll replace it with a host of very popular conservative reforms designed to lower health care costs, obviously. He'd make insurance portable across state lines. It's a big GOP priority. Expand health care savings accounts, restore and strengthen individual insurance markets and employer-sponsored coverage. He would let small business owners make a tax-free contribution to their workers' coverage, all in an attempt to restore private insurance and get away from the idea of big government. Bush is ahead of most of the pack on this. Bobby Jindal's the only other candidate to offer a detailed plan to repeal Obamacare. He did so on his webpage months and months and months ago. There was another candidate who did have a plan, but Scott Walker dropped out a month ago. In fact, a month ago just yesterday. So despite this being a top GOP priority and more than 50 attempts to repeal it in the House, most of the candidates don't have a detailed plan. Bush and Jindal so far are the only ones who do.
Interesting.
Martha?
Carl, thanks.
About 10 minutes past the hour, Hillary Clinton front and center tonight. You know that. Under fire also from fellow Democrats for flip-flopping, and not just once, but she's done it on a number of hot-button issues. Will it hurt her campaign? How will she defend that in this debate? We'll debate it in a moment here.